The process of building a team. Abundant sowing of the word. Encourage your people to take every opportunity to fully explain the four truths about life to people, and without being pushy, look for opportunities to obtain a definite decision from them to give their life to Christ. Use the 2 circles in the booklet that show the 2 types of life. Explain that the only way to experience the Lord's forgiveness and deliverance from the power of sin is to give your life over into His hands. You must make Him your Lord. Intense prayer for souls. Your team should understand that before souls can come to Christ, the powers that blind them must be overcome in prayer. Building of friendships and discipleship. Friendship starts with giving a person time. Be a good listener and offer to help where appropriate. Discipleship starts with the one-on-one follow-up of new converts and interested people. This is done with the help of the New Freedom and a New Beginning for You teachings. The 5 key scriptures used in these materials have been carefully chosen to address the key issues that confront new Christians. If we are fully conversant with the contents of these tools, we can use them spontaneously as the need arises without actually using the notes. If that is more appropriate, it is always good to follow up by giving the person the material to familiarize themselves with the Word of God on these issues. This is where we build a spiritually beneficial friendship with the new person. We show our care by our being there, and we show our competence by knowing their needs and being able to help them. You then can help the new convert to progress towards the victory encounter where they can expect a whole new dimension of freedom from guilt, shame, and fear. God will clear away the negative things of the past. This opens up a great future for them. Purposeful small group and church planting. Opportunity for expression and love is found in the small group. God places us in spiritual families to give us a new chance at life. Once the initial groups grow to the place where their members can start new small groups, the leaders group comes into being. This leaders group exists to develop the small group leaders as they grow their disciples. By showing the way forward, we can eliminate any anxiety that people may have with regard to the idea of them being able to plant out their own group. We do this together, acknowledging that there are both initiators and enablers. Each one needs to find their place in the body of Christ. Victory encounters. We need specially planned times where people meet with God and receive revelation on the foundations of the victorious Christian life. They must also be taught the life of victory after they return from the victory encounter. Leadership training. The leadership track gives further training, which gives a sense of purpose and achievement. Personal significance is found in the opportunity to start your own small group. To see a more thorough coverage of this primary stage, see the document 118, Fruit, the Result of Our Testimony. The Gospel. We are going to read a passage from Acts 17 which has the power to completely change our perspective on the gospel to the unreached nations. We will begin with verse 25, Acts 17:25. Neither is worshipped with men's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things. Verse 25 tells us how to reach the lost. God has a plan for every people group. God has not forgotten any tribe. Every day, God is loving men and unfolding His hand to them in love. He gave man an immune system to protect him from all types of diseases. This was the gift of God, but sin has caused men to degenerate in every area. Sickness and death claim their victims every day regardless of the marvelous advances in modern medicine. Man is made vulnerable through sin. God has no pleasure when man perishes or is wasted in any way, whether by disease or by circumstances. God gives us gladness and the joy of love in birth. God feels every sadness and death. Why does He allow suffering and pain then? The answer is very important to us if we are going to preach the gospel with any power of conviction. Psalm 115:16. 16 The heaven, even the heavens, are the Lord's. What the earth hath He given to the children of men. Heaven belongs to God, but He has given the responsibility of the earth over to men. God feels loss when men perish. This is why God sent His Son. John 3:16. He sent the best He had to redeem men. What about those who die? When Adam sinned, God stepped in straight away to reverse the curse. He killed the first sacrifice to cover man's sin. Genesis 3:15-21. Why did God kill an animal? He sacrificed the animal because the curse had come through an animal, the snake. After that first sacrifice that God himself offered in order to cover man's sin, millions of animals have had to give their life. Why? Does God hate animals? Not a sparrow falls without God's heart being touched. God doesn't delight in blood being spilt in the way that Satanists do with their blood sacrifices. Satan loves seeing blood, but God hates it. Why then have sacrifice? God had to show the cost of sin. Every time you sin, you steal life from someone else. No one lives or dies to himself. Romans 14:7. You may think you can sin out of the sight of men. You may think no one sees you, but every time you act against God's truth, you increase Satan's power in the earth. God feels every sin, and he was willing to pay the cost to eliminate sin. All sin is against God. This was David's revelation in Psalm 51:4. He said that his primary sin was before God. David saw that he had torn the heart of God, like the prodigal son who admitted to himself that his first sin was against God. Luke 15:18. He had given Satan more authority. Sin gives Satan more authority over us and over our nations. It affects our family, not only this generation, but those to come as well. Men are responsible, but they blame others for their problems. Genesis 3:12. We may blame the government, but we have problems that originated from our parents and their parents before them. This does not mean that we are not personally responsible. God says all souls belong to him. Ezekiel 18:4. Everyone is individually responsible. Ezekiel 18 tells us to own our own problems. It is our responsibility. You can change things. You can break the curse. God was willing to give his own son to make it possible for us to go free. Now he wants you to do something. He wants to have dominion through us. Is God silent? No. The first witness. Psalm 19:1-6. 1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. 2. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night sheweth knowledge. 3. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. 4. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun. 5. Which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. 6. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. This psalm shows us how God preaches the gospel to us at 3 different levels. God uses different means to bring the gospel to us. God has different vehicles that he uses to transport the truth to us. The first vehicle is the voice of nature. God preaches through the creation every day. When the sun gets up, God is saying, "This is a new day, filled with my love for you." This passage tells us that God speaks to us through marriage. When you fall in love, God is speaking. God is love. That's the gospel through life and circumstances. We find that he also speaks to us through sport and competition, as a young man runs a race. God expects man to win, but man doesn't hear God. He is blind and deaf to the voice because of sin, even though the sound has gone out into all the earth. We can't hear, but God feels our pain. The loudness of God's voice increases with each different method he uses to catch our attention. God promised to send a voice that all would hear. He would send his son, and then he would send his glory to cover the earth, to give all men the chance to hear. This will happen in 1 generation. Acts 14:15-17. 15, and saying, Sirs, why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth, and the sea, and all things that are therein. 16, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways. 17, nevertheless he left not himself without witness, in that he did good, and gave us rain from heaven, and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness. These verses give us answers for the skeptics. God speaks to all men. In this passage, men wanted to lift Paul up as if he were God because of the miracles that he did, but he said, "No, there is someone much greater than I. He made the heavens and the earth. This God has a plan for you from the day of your conception." Psalm 139, 13-16. Paul took these people back to the gospel of creation in Psalm 19. This was the first vehicle God used. God speaks each day. He gave the responsibility to Israel to preach the gospel, but they had failed through selfishness. Every act of selfishness is a sin against the whole of humanity. But God didn't leave himself without witness in creation. He gives man food and gladness. Food is such a blessing to the hungry. It brings gladness. When you're able to relieve yourself after holding on for a long time, and you can finally go to the toilet and are delivered from the rubbish and the poison in your system, there is great relief. This is the gospel. God is preaching in every place and at every time. He wants to fill our hearts with gladness. God seeks to reach us in every possible way. Acts 17:26. 26 And hath made of one blood all nations of men, for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation. God has been involved in every area of your life from the time that you were born. He has been there at every point of time because he has set the boundaries of your life. If I was born into a rich family, God has a plan and a time for me. If I was born poor, God still loves me and has both a plan and a time for me. God is not blind or deaf. He wants to heal every pain. How does Jesus feel when a young girl is raped? Does he look on hopelessly, wishing it never happened? Does God do nothing? Has he gone on holidays? No. God has a plan. When he saw these things coming as a result of sin and Satan's rule, he rose up and said, I will send my son. He saw our disappointments, and he saw when we were misunderstood and falsely accused and lied to. He felt the pain. There is a time for us. God is full of mercy, and he has a plan and a time. God, who is outside of time, sent his Son into time to redeem us. We were blind, and so God came. This is the loudest voice of the gospel. Acts 17:27. 27 That they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him, and find him. Though he be not far from every one of us, God is not far from any one of us. God was there when the child was raped. God felt the pain. When we come to God, Jesus is able to set us free. Jesus took the pain. When he went to the cross, he felt the loneliness and the rejection and the misunderstanding and the betrayal. He did it for us, to break the power of sin over every person who would believe. God is able to order our circumstances if we will call upon him. Romans 8:28. He has the ability to overrule every work of the devil. This is why he came. He came to destroy the works of the devil. 1 John 3:8. God can turn the worst situations around when we seek him. It is then that we will find that he is already not far from us. As we call out, God comes to us. We simply need to recognize his presence with us. The trouble is that mankind cannot hear God's call that goes out into all the earth. Sin has blinded the human race. Man's first response has often been to blame God.